Hey, what's going on, hustlers? What's going on? All right, let me see if I can share my screen here. If I got to do that in the beginning. Looks like I got to do it in the beginning. So I've got a presentation with this that I will share with you guys. So if I look a little funny in the video, it's because I'm actually looking at the presentation. If you want the presentation, you can either comment here in the thread, or you can just email Doug if you're watching this on one of our other channels, DOUG at Surefire Digital Media, and that's SUREFIRE digitalmedia.com, and we'll get you the presentation. I apologize, I didn't realize I had to share the screen before I started the presentation. That's all right though. Presentations suck anyway, right? And I normally don't use them, but I'm going to today because I already took the time to build it out. So I had a note, saw a comment here in the group when we talked about, I shared a situation that we had with one of our clients that we were doing live transfers for. And we had a comment that said, hey, it'd be awesome if you would do a Facebook Live and cover some sales strategies. So here we are covering sales strategies. All right, so I want to talk specifically about overcoming objections, and this is more geared toward our PNC guys. Obviously, you can kind of tweak this if you are life, health, or financial services, annuities, whatever the case may be. The principles are still the same. All right, so one of the things that I want to point out is that when a client gives you an objection, it's rarely the actual reason that they're giving you. Like when they give you an objection as to why they're not doing business, it's normally a stall. It's not normally what's actually keeping them from moving forward. And I think that's one of the first and foremost things that I want to cover, because so many people will think that the objection is what's actually keeping them, and so they don't dig deeper to figure out if that's the real reason. For example, a customer says that, oh, it's too expensive. What they're really saying is that the value that I'm receiving for this transaction isn't really worth the price that you're asking me to pay. Essentially, it's not necessarily that it's too expensive or that they don't have the money. I'm a firm believer that people rarely buy on price. I think that especially in the insurance world, it's something that customers throw out there, prospects throw out there, because they really don't know what else to say about it, right? They don't know much about insurance, so the best thing they can say is, oh, it's too expensive, right? And they're really just conditioned to think that price is ultimately the most important thing when it comes to insurance. And as insurance professionals, we know that that's not the case. There are going to be instances, though, where a no is actually a no, and you have to be good at distinguishing between the two. The last thing that I would ever recommend is that you chase around customers or prospects who really aren't worth your time to be chasing around. So you have to have a solid process in your agency, and everybody's going to have a different process of when to stop the follow-ups and put them into some sort of an automated follow-up system. I don't believe that you should ever stop following up with people. You should always, once you get somebody's information, whether it's email, phone, address, you should stay in front of them forever until they block you or they unsubscribe or tell you not to call or whatever the case may be. I have an old saying that we say here in our office. It's buy or die. That's it. Like, that's your only two options, is either you buy from us or you tell us to fuck off and go away. So understanding that it's rarely the actual reason, that initial objection they get is rarely the actual reason why they're not doing business with you. Recognize the answers that you're given may not be the whole story. So you got to ask questions. I'm a big believer in a salesperson not selling. I know that sounds really weird. Like, what? We're a salesperson. How can you be a salesperson not sell? Well, I think that most consumers of today are very educated. They have access to any amount of information they want. Everything's at our fingertips now. It's the most savvy marketplace that we've ever had to sell in. So I don't think that you can actually sell like you used to be able to, because information is so readily accessible. I think you can facilitate a buy, and I think that you can definitely ask good leading questions that will lead a prospect to buy from you. And ultimately, that's what people want to do, is they want to buy. People don't want to be sold, they want to buy. We all know that. So you want to ask specific questions that will that address the objection that they give you, and then move past it and dig deeper without disregarding the objection. Take responsibility for the objection. You never want to just dismiss it and move on. You have to address an objection. And I typically will start, my sales process is always about asking questions first. I want to find out as much as I can about the person that I'm about to do business with and their situation, because I think that, I will show them how my product or service is going to provide a solution to whatever it is that their problem might be. And sometimes that process includes helping them uncover the problem. A lot of people have a problem, especially around insurance, that they don't even realize is a problem. So it's very important to ask questions, and then when you get objections, ask more questions. And you want to ask questions that are going to be thought-provoking, that are going to lead them to ultimately make the best decision for themselves. And if you believe wholeheartedly in your product and service and your company and your agency, which you should, then the only natural best solution for them is to do business with you. So on the front of the conversation, ask. And here's some good questions that you can think about asking. And I have, if you guys have ever been on a sales call with me, I would encourage you to do it more than once. And I bet that you're going to have a very similar sales call every time you get on the phone with me. I have really refined the process. I did the same thing when I was selling insurance. I had like a list of questions that I would ask, not necessarily in the same order, but throughout the conversation, I'm going to hit on these key points. And I do that still today. I have 7 or 8 key questions that I'm going to ask and I'm going to get the answer to, because that's ultimately, I know that these 7 questions, 8 questions, I know based on those answers if I'm going to have somebody to follow up with or if I'm going to close. If you answer the questions in a manner that are outside of what our typical or perfect customer would answer, then we may not be a good fit. And that's the other thing to recognize too, is that you may not be a good fit for everybody, right? And you don't have to be, right? We're looking for a very specific type of agent that we're working with. And as an insurance agent, you should have a very specific type of customer that you're looking to work with. You don't have to insure everybody that you talk to. Now you can, obviously, but have an idea of who it is that your perfect customer is, and then design and develop your sales process to identify who those people are with good questions. So some of the things that I would ask regarding insurance is, what has you considering a new insurance policy today? You may say, how'd you hear about us? Depending on where the lead is coming from. And that's the thing with these sales trainings, and that's why I'm not a big sales trainer guy, is everything is so different. There's so many different variables that come into play when you're talking about increasing your sales. And you guys have all read sales books, you've been to sales seminars, you've been to sales training. You guys know this stuff, but it's always good to have maybe another angle to look at it. And just the smallest tweak of the process can make the biggest difference in the world. I remember I got on a webinar one time when I first started my marketing agency, and one call out of this 8-week mastermind that I had paid $5,000 for, and it just so happened to be on the first call of the mastermind. One call gave me one nugget of information that completely changed my business, my sales process, and my pricing model. And I made 50% more that year from that one strategy. So one nugget can make all the difference. One tweak in the sales process can make all the difference in the world. One follow-up script can make all the difference in the world. So what has you considering a new policy today? That's a good question. What do you find most important in an insurance provider? Really good question. I think a lot of times we get so caught up in this churn and burn, and we get caught up in it's a numbers game, and we just try to crank out as many quotes as we possibly can, and we forget to slow down the sales process and really have a good conversation with people. We get so into the apples to apples, they want to get their price, we need to save them money, boom, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, out the door, on to the next, right? Slow down, have a conversation, figure out who your perfect customer is, identify them through these questions. What do you like most about your insurance provider? I'm going to say that again. What do you like most about your current insurance provider or your current insurance policy? I never hear people ask this. What do you like about your current insurance policy? And a lot of people, when they get into sales conversations, they like to start looking at all the things that they do better than their insurance for their, the prospect's current policy. They like to look at, the coverages that they have that their current policy doesn't have. They like to look at, oh, we're cheaper here than they are there. We have this endorsement, and you don't have that endorsement. And we start selling to all the negatives of their policy. Big mistake. Remember, people buy products and services based on, what a company does well and what they like about a service, they don't buy based on the shortcomings. They didn't buy the policy because it didn't have this endorsement, that endorsement, or this endorsement, right? They bought the policy because there was something about it they liked. They bought from that agent because there was something they liked about that person. So what you got to do is figure out what is it that they like, right? And again, I can't stress this enough. So many times in sales, particularly with insurance, we look at their shortcomings and the decision they made versus what they like. Uncover what they like. That's important, because then what you can do with your policy and your agency is show them how you have all of those things. They're even better than what they have, and you have all these other things. So you can't negate what they like. You have to find that out. It's a very, very important question. What do you like about your policy? Why did you pick that policy? Why did you pick that agent? Maybe it's price, maybe it's coverage, maybe it's location, maybe it's convenience, right? Because if you fail to ask them this, the person could have bought that policy because the agent is a mile away and they like to go in and talk to the agent once a week. Well, if you're 100 miles away, you've got an objection here that you don't even know to overcome, because that's probably not going to come up in later in the process when you give them the quote and you're about the same. Now they've got 100 miles that they got to drive that you didn't even realize was a factor. And they could say, oh, well, it's too much. Or it could even be a situation where I'm not saving enough, right? Like, you could actually have apples for apples, the same thing, but they still don't want to switch. And that will blow agents' minds of like, I don't understand it. I'm saving them $100 a month, saving them $800 a year, and they're not switching. And I'm giving them better coverage. Well, there's something missing. You missed something in that process. And it could be something as simple as, well, this agent's right down the road and you're 100 miles away, right? And you don't even know. And they're not going to sometimes consciously be aware of that was what was most important to them. But in their mind, they're thinking, well, it's just really not worth it because I don't want to drive 100 miles. And they're not going to tell you, oh, it's not worth it because I don't want to drive 100 miles. They may, but they may not. So a big one is price. We all know that price is probably one of the most common objections that we're going to have. It's going to be happen on almost every sales call. And most insurance agents I talk to, price is the number one reason that they're not closing. Oh, we're not competitive. If I got $1 for every time I heard an agent tell me they're not competitive, I would have tens of millions of dollars. But, it's interesting. I had a guy in Chicago, and in fact, a lot of agents that I have in the Chicago area, now that I think about it, tell me that they don't want anything in Chicago, like in the city of Chicago. I don't want to be in Chicago. I don't want to be in Detroit. I don't want to be in Miami. Like, they don't want to be in the big metro areas. And I'm always thinking, like, somebody's insuring them, right? Somebody's insuring these people in these massive cities where most of the population is centered in any given state, right? And it ends up that a lot of them are insured with the company that, the agent I'm talking with. I could be talking to a State Farm client telling me that they don't want a person in Chicago, and it turns out State Farm insures 23% of the population in Chicago. Like, what do you mean? Anyway, that's another tangent I can go on. But if price is something that comes up, you've got to understand the way you set every sales conversation up will determine how successful you are at overcoming this price objection. So again, ask questions up front. So some of the questions I like to get into a conversation up front is, how much are you currently paying for your insurance? Right? Seems easy enough, but a lot of times we don't even ask that. What are you currently paying for your insurance? How much are you hoping to pay for your insurance today? That's a really good question that a lot of people don't ask. How much are you hoping to pay for your insurance today? We might get in, how much are you paying, or what are you paying every 6 months or whatever, but how much are you hoping to pay? Get an idea, get a benchmark of where their mind is at. What were you hoping to pay for your auto insurance, for your life insurance, for your health insurance? And I'm sure a lot of people are going to say, well, I'd like to have it for free, or As little as possible. Okay, well, let's talk about that. What does that mean? Like as little as possible for me or for you, or per month, per year, per there's so many ways that can go, right? So again, getting them into that conversation, and you have to look at keeping them talking. Get the answers from them. So how much are you hoping to pay for insurance is a really good one. Would you say it's more important to save money on your monthly rate or save at the time of claim? Really good question. Those are two very big different things. Hey, saving is important to me, right? Because understand price and savings, those are two different things. But they fall under the same category. But if somebody says, oh, I'm hoping to save money, okay, awesome. Would you say it's more important to save on your monthly rate, or are you hoping to save at the time of the claim? And a lot of customers don't think that, and very few have ever been asked that. They probably, I don't know. Well, insurance has limitations, right, on coverages, and you go into explaining how insurance works because they don't know. Don't take for granted that they know. Most people don't. I know people in their 30s and 40s who have no idea what auto insurance is, no idea what liability limits are, no idea what BI versus PD means, comp versus collision, deductibles, how those work. Talk to them about that, especially if they've never filed a claim or it's been a long time. Explain to them that, there's limitations, and some people prefer to save, a few bucks a month, and some people prefer not to be out of pocket. If you file a claim, do you want to pay any money? Do you want to share any of that responsibility, or are you wanting us to cover most of it or all of it, right? Ask those kind of questions. Keep good conversation going. The more that you can talk to them and get them thinking about coverage, thinking about their scenario, thinking about what happens if a claim, happens, how do you want to pay, the less they're worried about price. The quicker you make the process, and speed to market is important, right? We know that we have to get to this person. They don't want to spend a lot of time. They don't want to spend a lot of time listening to your bullshit is what they don't want to spend a lot of time. People like to talk. If you can keep them talking and get a good conversation going, they're not thinking about price. They're answering your question. You're refocusing their mind and the tone of the conversation, and you're taking control while they're talking, right? A lot of times we think controlling the conversation means that you're talking most of the time, and that couldn't be further from the truth. Controlling the conversation is it's going in the direction that you want it to go. But if you can let them feel like they're in control, because most people assume he who's talking is in control, let them think they're in control by talking, and you're guiding them to the ultimate answer, which is to do business with you. So how much are you hoping to save on your insurance rate? So you got how much are you hoping to pay? How much are you hoping to save if they say they want to save on their insurance? That's a question that very few people have ever been asked. And if you think about that for a second, how much are you hoping to save? If they come to you and tell you that price is most important, or that they want to save money, and you ask them, how much are you hoping to save? They're going to pause for a minute. And most people have never thought about that. They just get on the phone because they know nothing else to say, because the insurance industry spends hundreds of millions of dollars a year marketing to people about save money, switch and save, discount this, discount that. And the only thing the consumer knows, because they've been pounded and conditioned to believe that insurance equals saving. Switching means saving. That's the only thing on their mind. So if you say, well, how much are you hoping to save? They've never thought about it. I don't know. Well, let's think about it. Let's talk about it, right? Get them talking. They may realize in that instance, I don't know. You can't tell them that price isn't important, and you can't tell them that savings isn't important. They can tell themselves that, but you got to get them to answer the question. You got to get them to say it. I always follow up. If I ask them, how much are you looking to save on your insurance, or how much were you hoping to save on your insurance? If once you get through that, you get a number, you don't get a number, the next thing I follow up with, what are you saving for? What are you saving for? That's a really powerful question, because, okay, they may even have a number. I don't know. I'd like to save 50 bucks a month. Awesome. 50 bucks a month. What are you saving for? Are you saving for your kids' college? Are you saving for a family vacation? Are you saving for a rainy day? What are you going to save? What are you going to do with all the money that you save? Never thought about it. Number one, they've never thought about how much they want to save in the first place. And I can guarantee you, they certainly haven't thought about what they're saving for. The reason you want to ask these questions is not because you think that they actually have an answer or there's a magical answer. The purpose of these two questions is to help them see subconsciously, and it'll happen, that savings really isn't that important, and they never really even put any thought behind saving. Saving for what? What are you saving for, right? But here's the thing. If savings is important and they tell you that they can't afford their bill as it is, a lot of agents want to run for the hills, right? And again, most people aren't really in a situation where if they don't save 20 bucks a month on their insurance, they can't buy the policy or they're going bankrupt. It's a matter of value. We talked about it earlier. They don't see the perceived value. But listen, guys, they're spending the money somewhere. Cigarettes, beer, cell phones, Netflix, cable, whatever, right? So you got to get into that conversation, get them to realize that they don't even know what they're saving for. So it can't be that important, right? Now, if you get somebody who says, I specifically have to save $50 a month because this $50 is going to my kid's college fund and I can't possibly save it anywhere else. I've tried everywhere else and I can't find it, right? You'll never find that though. The good news is, and the thing that you can think about too in this conversation and things that you can bring up in conversation is that, listen, there's so many areas in life that people can save money, right? People can, save money on their cell phone, right? You crack your screen and people will spend 160, 180 bucks, the drop of a hat to fix the screen because they don't like a cracked screen. People will spend $5 on a cup of coffee. People will, stop and go out to eat and spend 10 bucks. And they'll do this time and time again and not think twice about it. But they'll always look to things that are aggravating to them to save money, right? They'll look at their insurance rates because it's something that comes out every month and, oh, let's see where I can cut money. It's the same in my business, right? People will look at, hey, where can I cut costs? Oh, let's cut the marketing budget, right? Because it's something easy to cut. Without even thinking about it. They don't even think about, well, why are you saving? Like, what's going on? If you're running low on cash, do you think cutting your voice to the marketplace is a wise decision? Is there somewhere else we might be able to cut? Like, could we fire that unproductive employee, right? Could we, get a smaller office space? Like, I don't think that cutting off your sales voice is the most logical thing to do here if we're really starving for cash right now, right? But same types of conversations you guys can have. You might have an objection, something like, it sounds good, but let me talk it over with my husband or my wife, right? How do you handle that? Sounds good, I want to talk to my husband or wife. What I would say is I totally understand that. Sounds like you guys discuss when decisions are made about changing your insurance, is that right? Right? So if he has to discuss it with his wife or she has to discuss it with her husband, okay, I typically think that's a stall. Sometimes it may be a household where they legitimately cannot make a decision independent of each other. But if that's the true case, then okay, well, then you've probably talked about this before this point. Like if you talk about and make these decisions together, it's not likely that you just on a whim, without talking to your spouse, decide you're going to go check on insurance rates and then talk to them about it, right? Because if you could do that, then you could theoretically make a decision about the insurance and then just talk about it later, right? So if they truly talk about it with their husband and wife, you'll find out with this question, totally understand that. Sounds like you guys discuss when decisions are made about changing your insurance. Is that right? They should say yes. Awesome. Then I'm guessing you guys already talked about getting some comparisons then. Is it just you getting the comparisons or is he or she getting comparisons as well? And what they tell you is most important regarding their insurance policy. Then those questions you ask this person early on, ask them what their spouse thinks about it, right? Because they talk about it, right? They've already discussed this. They don't do things without discussing it, right? So in getting into this line of questioning, you'll uncover really quick whether or not this is something they really need to talk about or if it's a stall tactic. Because if they haven't, if the other person doesn't know that they're shopping, if they have no idea what's important or why that, the family wants to shop new rates, then they're probably full of shit. They don't have to talk to them. It's a stall, right? So then we can ask a few more questions and figure out if we can get this, what's really causing them, because it's not about talking to their spouse. So I like that line of questioning because you can really uncover if that's the real reason or if it's a stall. If it's a stall, you got to figure out what the stall is from. I get something all the time, a really common stall tactic in my business is, can I talk to an agent with Allstate or Farmers or whoever it is? Can I talk to another agent that's using your service? Absolutely. But before we do that, is there anything else that's preventing us from doing business today? Do you like everything else about what we've talked about? Is the price okay? Do you like the way that we run our campaigns? Do you have any questions? Or once you get a good reference, we're ready to move forward, right? I ask that because a lot of times people have something else that they want to worry about or that's on their mind that we haven't discussed. And I'm going to call them if they say, most people aren't liars, right? Most people, if asked a direct question, okay, if you get a good reference, then we're doing business. Is that right? Most people aren't going to lie. It puts them on the spot and they're like, well, actually, boom, then we can discuss that thing, right? So that's really what you want to get to with any of your discussions, any of your objections, is figure out if that's the real objection. And if not, fine, get to that real objection. So I'm paying less with my current provider. Big one, right? Back to price. A lot of this is price driven because that's what you guys deal with the most. I'm paying less now with my current provider. That's a big one. How do you respond to that, right? What do you say? Well, hopefully you've already asked some solid qualifying questions in the beginning that we talked about, but there's several scenarios that could play out here, right? You know, do you know how much they're paying now? Are you looking at just one or the other, home or auto? You know, do you have their coverage levels or not? You know, is it apples to apples? Are you quoting more, quoting less? A couple of things I want to point out really quick. Number one, never send out a quote blind. If you don't get a hold of somebody and you can't talk to them, do not send them a quote. I'm just a firm believer in that. You may have successful stories of sending out blind quotes and people calling you out, but unless you know you're the cheapest guy on the block, don't send a blind quote. Talk to them. I make somebody talk to me before they get a price. I will not give a price to somebody that I am not on the phone with. Not going to happen. I don't put them on my website. I didn't do it as an insurance agent. Price is so important to talk about, not in the decision making, but to talk about, that I don't let them think through that on their own because most people don't think through deeply enough. If you let a customer just look at a price, in their mind, price is most important. But with you having a good conversation, you can help them realize that price isn't that important, right? 90% of all purchase decisions are made out of emotion. Their emotions drive the purchase, not the price. A price can affect their emotion about it, but if you can help them think through that, I promise you, you can overcome the price. You know, do you have their deck page? Listen, if you've got a deck page and you've got a price and you know with similar coverages, you're way out of the ballpark, you got to go on the total opposite end of the spectrum and quote 1 million, right? Like as high as you can get, and you're just going to sell that way. And then the way I do is work backwards and like, whoa, that's way too expensive. And then I look at bringing that all the way down. So one of the big things though regarding price and how I overcome with, hey, I'm paying less currently, is aggravating versus devastating. Aggravating versus devastating. Think about this when you're having a conversation. Listen, Mr. Customer, I understand that it might be aggravating, and this is assuming that you've gotten to the place where you have found out if it's really price, if they want to save monthly, the time of a claim, figuring out all these answers. You've gone through all this stuff to get to this point, but they're paying less than what you're offering for similar coverages. You're going to have to move something around, whether that's decrease the deductibles so they're out of pocket less. Listen, because if somebody has a price injection, they're struggling paying your premiums, all right, then that means they don't have money, okay? It means they're running low on money. They don't have a lot of disposable income. So aggravating versus devastating. Listen, Mr. Customer, I know that it might be aggravating to pay a little bit more than you had hoped for. Not to pay more for your insurance, but to pay more than you hoped or more than you expected, right? Because you never want to concede that you're right, my price is too high. You don't want to agree to that, but you will say, I understand that it's aggravating to pay a little bit more than you had hoped for when you initially went to shop for insurance. But that being the case, what I want to do is make sure that you're not in a devastating situation later. And here's what I mean by that. I know that it might be aggravating to pay an extra $10 a month or to pay another $20 a month that you were hoping to save. But when we look at your homeowner's insurance, just as an example, we look at your homeowner's insurance, you currently have a 1% wind hail deductible. And what I've done, because I do know that price is important to you and that saving money is important, or I know that you guys are tight on cash, or however you want to position that, depending on how that conversation went. But if it's somebody who say, is tight on cash, they don't have a ton of money, so they can't sell them a whole bunch of extra coverages. Maybe you're even looking at the auto. Maybe they got $1,000 deductible on the auto. Fit the pieces to the scenario. But I'm looking at a 1% wind hail deductible. You've got a $200,000 home. That's $2,000 if something should happen and you have to file a claim, or when something happens and you got to file a claim on the home. And what I've done is I brought this down to a $500 deductible, because I understand that that extra $10 a month is aggravating to you. But listen, Mr. Customer, $10 a month is aggravating to pay each month. Wouldn't you agree that paying $1,500 or $2,000 at the time of a claim, that's going to be devastating, right? Or not having, or having state minimum liabilities and getting sued and owing $100,000 because you were at fault in an accident. That's going to devastate your family. And I know that it's aggravating to pay for an extra $10 or $20 a month, but I want to keep you from being in a devastating situation. I see so many times customers come or clients, leave us for a less expensive policy or a cheaper policy to save $10 a month. But at the cost of saving that $10 a month, they've exposed themselves thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars at risk in the event of a claim, or in the event that something is covered that we've got covered here. And all of a sudden, now they're in a devastating situation. And 100% of the time that I've asked those people to talk to those people, or had the opportunity, or they come back to insure with us after that situation, 100% of the time they wish that they had just paid a little bit more than they hoped for, because now that they're in a devastating situation. So think aggravating versus devastating. It's a really, really good way to overcome price and get people to think about it a little bit differently than just being so short-sighted. Help them think big picture. Ask good questions. And guys, listen, if you want to join our weekly sales mastermind, we have a weekly mastermind every Wednesday at 12 Central. We go over a new topic every single week. We have guest speakers that come in. We do role plays. We've got a strong group of agents and their team members that come on every week. We share best practices. We give phone scripts, email scripts, text scripts, sales processes, follow-up scripts. Email Doug, D-O-U-G, at surefiredigitalmedia.com, or hit us up on our website at surefiredigitalmedia.com. If you have a lead provider that is not cutting it, you're not getting the sales, you're not getting the conversions, and you need a better lead provider, you need exclusive leads, telemarketing service, live transfers, appointment setting, CRM, marketing automation, text automation, website design, we do all of that at Surefire Digital Media. Go to our website, check it out, surefiredigitalmedia.com. Would love to have the opportunity to do business with you. I hope this helps somebody. I hope that it resonates with you. If you got any comments or success stories or things that have worked out well for you, share it in the comments, man. Would love to hear from you. And I hope that you guys have a great evening. I still got a lot of work to do. I'm still here at work grinding. It's 8:53 here in Dallas, and I've got probably 3 or 4 more hours of work to do, but that's just the life of a hustler. Y'all have a good one.